Hello, you spicy bean. Welcome on in. If you guys are new, I'm Harriet, and today we are playing reading roulette, baby. My TBR is ever growing. It's this whole cart, and then I have some down here, some up here. I think I just get caught up sometimes with like reading the new books that I buy and not so much reading the older ones. So this game, reading roulette, it's going to be a great chance for me to basically just randomize my entire TBR and read some of the books with you guys. I've created 3 roulette wheels, which I will put up on the screen. One of them is for the genre, one of them is for the page count, and one of them is for the color. The idea is we work our way through each roulette wheel until we come out with one book that I'm going to read. This will be a series on my channel. We're going to take down this TBR, we're going to clear this cart and start reading the books that I maybe have been avoiding a little bit. I have the genre wheel on my phone, so let's spin it and see what genre we will be reading today. Romance. Luckily, I do have quite a lot of romance books on the cart, and then also down here, like I mentioned, I have some books that I haven't read, and on my monthly TBR, I have 2 romance books. I have Wild Love by Elsie Silver and Wildfire by Hannah Grace. It's time to spin the page count wheel. I'm praying for something that's kind of shorter because I don't think I have it in me to read a 500+ romance book, but it's not up to me. So we're gonna spin and see what we get. Why does this make me actually nervous? Oh, 100 to 200. I don't even think I have any romance books that are 100 to 200 pages. Let me have a quick look. We're gonna have to spin the page count again because I don't think I own any romance books that are 100 to 200, and I don't have any on my Kindle either. Don't you fucking dare. 500 pages plus. So any book that's over 500 pages. I strongly believe that no romance book should be over 500 pages, but I have 2 in mind. I've actually started both of them and haven't finished either of them. So it's these 2 books, Love Redesigned and Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. Love Redesigned looks like it's about 518 pages, so that is a contender. And then Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, 524 pages. So these 2 are definitely options. I'm also wondering, because I believe that Throne of the Fallen by Kerry Maniscalco is a romance fantasy. I'm just gonna double check the actual genre on this, like whether it would be classified as a romance or strictly like a fantasy. This is classified as a romantasy, and that means that the romance is bigger than the fantasy, and then a fantasy romance is when the fantasy is bigger than the romance. That is my understanding of the genre. I feel like you guys won't be mad if I also count this. I just want to have like options. Let's find out what book we're reading by spinning the color wheel. Why am I actually nervous when I made this game up? Like, okay. Oh, brown. This is the brownest for sure. This is straight up purple, so that's not out. And then this doesn't really, like the key is brown. I kind of want to spin again. All right, we're spinning again because there was no book that was actually brown. Okay, we've landed on purple, and there is a very obviously purple book in this pile. This is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I am actually a good way through this. I think I'm like 50% through this book. So this book is about Julian and Dahlia. They are childhood friends. Their mums are like besties, and Julian has become a billionaire. I think he's a real estate developer. And then Dahlia is an interior designer, I believe, and she's had like a show that was really famous, so she's also kind of this celebrity now. So they're both living these big crazy lives, and then they both come back together to Lake Wisteria, where they're from, and I think she needs like a break from everything that's been happening, and he's back to develop a property or something, or maybe he lives there actually. I'm sorry, I truly can't remember. They get thrown together. She ends up seeing this beautiful historic house that she wants to renovate, and he buys it, and they work together on the house. It's very much like a character driven story so far. It's very much about their relationship, and like they have this almost, I don't want to say enemies because the stakes are so low, but they really annoy each other is all I can really say about it. I remember why she came home now. She comes home because she was engaged and the engagement was called off, and so she's healing from her broken heart back at their hometown. So that's kind of the vibe. I definitely don't think it's bad so far. I just don't believe that any romance book needs to be 500 pages. It's already like so dragged out. Let's keep reading this. I'm really excited to finish this actually, because it's very frustrating being halfway through a 500 page book and not finishing it. Like, this will not take me long to finish. So this is the first book. Thank you to the reading roulette gods for helping me get this off my TBR card. I totally forgot this, but the guy that Dahlia was engaged to, his name is Oliver, and it is Julian, who's the main character, the male main character, his old roommate. So they met through him. He's a bit of a dick. Obviously they're not together anymore. And that reality show that I said she worked on, Oliver's parents were like the producers of the show, and Oliver was in the show with her. So there's like a really interesting dynamic where even though they were together, he kind of was like allowed to be a dick because he had the show over her, like he was holding it over her. It's an interesting dynamic. So now we're kind of like unpacking what that was like, and Julian, the main male character, he feels like really bad that he introduced her to Oliver when Oliver was such a dick and obviously like fucked her around. So that's kind of fun. It's definitely like not a bad book by any means. I think there's something about books that are written like this that I don't personally connect with. There's a lot of like sexual tension, and like he talks a lot about like, oh, she's wearing such a nice outfit, like my dick's gonna struggle all day. And I'm just like, that is not romance for me. It's obviously spicy and great for people who want that. It's just not. I much prefer like a strong emotional connection. And even though these two knew each other ages ago and they've been friends forever, I don't feel the emotional connection between these two. It feels very physical to me right now. That might change, but I feel like it's rare for that to change. Like, I much prefer when a book is emotional, and then if the physical stuff comes in, I feel like I can deal with that better. I'm not like anti-smut, it's just not my favorite thing, but when the emotional comes first, I can handle it, like I don't mind it. But when it's like physical first, these guys haven't even had sex in this book, but feels very physical and like infatuation based. So I feel like that's not going to change. Guys, I wish I could come here bearing great news, but this book is not, it's not it for me. I'm sorry. Like, exactly what I thought was going to happen has in fact happened. So up until now, they've been like very building, like slow build and denying their feelings for each other and trying to kind of avoid each other. But then recently there was like a one bed situation, you know, where they like go to a hotel and all of the rooms happen to be booked up, and so they have to sleep in the same bed. Basically the kind of smut or the whatever, straight up just graphic sex has begun. And I really, every time I talk about like smut or spice or whatever, I feel like I come off as a prude, and I am not a prude, okay? I read 50 Shades of Grey when I was like 15 or whenever that came out. Like, I get it. I do. I think I'm just a bit particular with like when and what the smut constitutes. I'm cool with it every now and then. I feel like it can add to the plot, add to the relationship, but I think books like this, like more kind of viral romance books, they tend to have just like a lot of smut and kind of unnecessary smut. And for my smut girlies, this is for you. Like, this is totally what you would want, because it's got a good balance of like romance, but then there's definitely more graphic sex scenes. So a lot of people will enjoy this. It's just not what I enjoy reading, especially like the kind of smut that this is. I'm just gonna like read you, and I can't believe I'm doing this on my balcony where I have neighbors, but this is what it says. I'm honestly gonna have to blur this, but it says, Julian, with his dark, dilated eyes, acts like a man possessed by my as he collects my and teases my with it. From the sting of his stretching me to the pace he sets, I'm a goner. It's just too much. I'm sorry. I find it really cringe. I think like there is a type of sex scene which I'm fine with. It's just this is not that for me. So I am like really struggling to get through because that's kind of all that it is right now. There's really not a lot going on. It's like normal scene, sex scene, normal scene, sex scene, normal scene, sex scene, sex scene, sex scene, normal scene. And granted, like this book is a full 500 pager. So in like contextually in this book, there's not actually that much smut, like if you take the percentage, but it's just too much for me. Also, like I think I said this from the beginning, but their relationship is so physical, and now that the physical stuff has actually started, it's like you can't convince me that these people are actually in love with each other. I think they just have had sexual tension since they were teenagers. Also, one more qualm about this book before I keep reading is like they're both so pressed by something that happened when they were in college, and I believe these characters are in their 30s now. Like surely you can appreciate that people change, but they're like, I can't get feelings for you because I'm gonna get hurt again. It's like literally grow up. Anyway, thanks for coming to my rant. I do know that a lot of people love this book. I've seen like booktubers give this 5 stars. It's just not my kind of romance. I find I say that about a lot of romances, so maybe just romance isn't for me. It's definitely like a specific kind of read, and honestly I would recommend this to people who like this kind of book where it's like definitely smutty and I don't know, it's definitely like character driven and all of that. It's just not what I like in a book. Honestly, if I wasn't filming this video, I reckon I might consider DNFing it, but I have like 100 pages to go, so I'm gonna finish this right now. Hopefully they can convince me that they actually like each other. I just don't feel it right now.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. You and I, the future is...
I think I have a cold, dead heart because this is a 1.5 stars from me. Honestly, is it actually a 1? I think a 1.5 is fair. It was just like not my thing. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's for me. It was not my cup of tea. I found it quite cringe. I think it could have been 200 pages shorter. I didn't really believe their relationship. I didn't mind the characters, and I loved the Spanish that was involved. If you guys didn't know, I think maybe both of their parents, I'm not sure, but their mums definitely speak like fluent Spanish, so you kind of like, they write words in Spanish and then there's like a little almost like footnote at the bottom which tells you what the word means, and I thought that was cool. That is probably my favorite part of this book is the Spanish. Didn't love the fact that there were like 2 billionaires and a famous TV personality in this tiny ass small town of Lake Wisteria, which the town gets a day off for the Harvest Festival. That's how tiny this town is. And yet there are 2 billionaires and a TV person. Like, I just don't believe that. Like, what are the odds of that happening? I would say very small. So there was a lot of things like that I just didn't believe. Their relationship was not emotional or romantic for me whatsoever. And yeah, that's kind of all that I have to say on this. I definitely would recommend it if you like just like fun, silly, smutty romance and you don't mind things being a little bit like long and dragged out. But yeah, just it really wasn't my thing. I'm still yet to find a romance that I like more than Book Lovers by Emily Henry. That's just like my perfect romance book. So if you have any recommendations of any book that's ever given you that same feeling, please let me know, because I do enjoy romance. I just enjoy very specific romance books. Like I've only given maybe 3 or 4 romance books a 5 star. So anyway, I'm happy to be done with this. I'm happy it's officially off my TBR because I've been reading this for months now. All right, besties, we've gone back in time because now I'm going to pick out our second and final book for this video. I am loving this so much. It's such a fun game. So same as last time, we're going to start off with the genre. I think I would love a fantasy. Would I love a fantasy? A fantasy or a mystery, I think I would love, because we've just read a romance and we all know how I feel about romance. So let's spin for the genre. Again, I'm so nervous. Free pick! We did land on free pick. So now I have to actually commit I think just based on the amount that I have, I think I'm going to go for a fantasy, because I do in fact have a lot of fantasy, and I have 1, 2, 3 fantasies on my monthly TBR, and I really do want to try and read some of those books. So let's go now to the page count. It's hard to find a short fantasy book, but we don't get to choose. The Wheel of Doom gets to choose. So I've pressed spin. I'm manifesting 300 to 400, 300. No. Literally, why have I got 2 500 plus page books? This is, wow. Immediately I think of The Final Empire. This is on my monthly TBR, so it will be Killing Birds with Stones. A lot of you guys have told me I really will enjoy this, but it might take me like 100 or 200 pages to get into, so that's an option. And then also on my monthly TBR is The City of Brass. This is also over 500 pages, and this sounds so good. Throne of the Fallen is a fantasy technically and is over 500 pages, so we'll add that to the stack. No. Six of Crows is 494 pages, so unfortunately that one's a no as well. A Court This Cruel and Lovely is over 500 pages, so we have a decent stack so far. The Night Circus is 485, so I think those are our options. I also obviously have like the next book in the Throne of Glass series, which for me right now is Queen of Shadows, but I'm not going to do that because it's really hard for me to talk. Like, I can't say anything about that book because it's like in the middle of a series. So all of these are, I believe, first in a series, so I can definitely talk more freely. These are our options. Let's now spin for the color. So we have 2 black books, a white book, and a brown/blue book. So we might have to get creative with the spinning wheel depending on what comes up. So let's open up the color wheel. All right, color wheel determines what we're gonna read next. I have a great feeling about pretty much all of these books, so I'd honestly be happy to read any of them, but ideally the 2 on my TBR would be perfect. Pink. Oh, it's so close to brown. Okay, pink. I don't think any of these have pink. This, no pink. This, I feel like that's pink, right? This has no pink, and this has also no pink. So I think our book is A Court This Cruel and Lovely. I have no idea what this book is actually about, but I saw Emmy. If you guys don't watch her, she's amazing, and she reads like a crazy amount of books and a lot of fantasy. And I believe she said that this was like so good. And I think this one was a book that she recommended if you enjoyed ACOTAR. Just hours after humans are born, the gods take what little power we have. In return, they protect our borders from the vicious, merciless Fae. The humans who manage to keep their power are known as the corrupt, and they are put to death. When my forbidden power is discovered, I'm forced to flee my tiny village and the life I adore. To survive, I make a desperate bargain with a mercenary, a dark and brooding man whose face I have been seeing in my dreams. It's agreed that I'll help him into the city, and he'll help me learn to wield the strange, dark power I've always kept hidden. But the ruthless mercenary is hiding secrets of his own, secrets that threaten the safety of everyone I love, secrets that could tear this kingdom and perhaps even this world apart. This sounds really fun. I'm nervous because I feel like with fantasy, when they're long, if I don't love it, I just take so long to get through them. But I'm excited to read this, see what the hype is all about. So let's begin, shall we? It's much later now, but I have officially read 100 pages of this book, so I thought I would give you a little rundown. In this world, everybody, I believe, is born with powers, but when you're born, or like just after you're born, you have to give the powers back to the gods. And then when you turn 25, you get some of those powers back through this stone. So like you give your powers up to the gods, and then as a thank you for your sacrifice, they give you some back. That is the basis of this world. Our main character is called Prissa.
Priska, she is harboring this secret, which is that she actually has powers and therefore she could be killed. So basically there are these like, I can't remember what they're called, but they're kind of like police officers, but obviously it's a fantasy world, so they have a way cooler title, but they kind of oversee and make sure that, you know, they're sniffing out people who are disobeying, who have powers, but are like pretending they don't. Her powers are discovered. Something happens and people realize that she has powers. And so she leaves her village and goes on this journey to kind of, I mean, realistically just escape because she's like being hunted because it's really, really, really bad to have powers. And when she's on her little journey, as if she's not fleeing for her life, she bumps into this group of mercenaries, this kind of bad boy, they're giving boy band, honestly, but like dark, evil, and sexy. And they are like, I don't know what they're exactly doing yet, but I think they're a little bit like rebellious, a little bit dodgy. She bumps into them and ends up kind of joining forces with them. And that is where I'm up to right now. So there is a male that we've been introduced to who I believe is going to be our love interest. I am like really enjoying this so far, honestly. I think the world is really fun. I can totally see why this is a book that people recommend if you liked ACOTAR. It's not really that similar, but it gives the same energy. And this is also a fae fantasy. The fae haven't really come into it too much yet, but it's fae fantasy, but then the powers that people have are really cool. So like you could stop time, you could see the future, like really cool, fun powers. So it's kind of like superpowers, except in a magical, fantastical world, which is really cool. I'm really enjoying it. I think the writing is super easy to understand. I think the world is pretty fleshed out. Like it's not confusing, but it's detailed, which is really nice. So yeah, I'm loving this right now. And honestly, the pages are flying by. I will say like the chapter pages are half pages. So even though this is like a 500 plus page book, as we know, it's actually really reading very quickly. So my one hope is that it does not go crazy on the romance, because as we know by now, if you've come to my channel before, books like this really, I love the world and I get so invested and I love the magic system and I love the powers and everything, and then they turn into just like straight up romance and smut from like the 60% mark. And so I'm really hoping that doesn't happen, but this is a romantasy, so stay tuned to find out. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning when I pick this book back up. Decent chunk in this book today. I'm on page 395, I think. This is taking me a while. It's been a few days since I last filmed, and I was trying to think about why that is, because some books I feel like I just am so into and like need to finish immediately, and then other books I don't feel that with, and I don't always know why. And this book is one of those ones that I'm like, I don't really know why I'm not dying to pick this up. Like, it's definitely a good book. The plot is so fun. Like, the first half of this book, you're on that journey with her and the mercenaries where they're like, well, she's fleeing because her powers have been discovered when she's not meant to have powers, because you're not meant to have powers until you're 25. So they're running away. The mercenaries have their own goal, which I still don't know what they're trying to achieve, and they need her help. So they like team together. And then the second half of the book is like a different journey. They end up kind of splitting up and then like going on another journey, which I won't talk about because I don't want to spoil anything. But you're always in a new setting. You always kind of have a moving goal. So like things feel really exciting. I haven't read a fantasy book where people are like on the move all the time. So it does feel very action-packed, really exciting. Like, I don't know. There's something that's maybe missing, or maybe it's just my kind of reading state right now. A lot of this book is actually reminding me of Throne of Glass, just like a lot of the themes and like I won't spoil anything. Just there are things that are reminding me of the Throne of Glass series, which is fine. A lot of fantasy is similar, so that's kind of okay. So yeah, I don't really know. Like, I am enjoying this for sure. It's definitely a book that I'll recommend. I mean, we'll see what happens in the end, but I'm not like obsessed with it, I think. And again, we have this kind of annoying thing that it just annoys me. This is going to be so personal to me, but it was the same in the last book, where it's so interesting because these are men written by women, but I find that a lot of kind of romance books, or like, I guess romantasy as well, they do this thing where the male perspective is quite sexual. And it's, to be fair, it's not really a super big part of this book because there's so much going on. Like, there's so much plot and fantasy stuff. It's like tiny. But there have been a few occasions where he just talks about his dick like it's a person, like it awakens whenever she enters a room, or like it's waiting for her, like things like that I'm just like, I don't feel like that's necessary. And again, I'm not a prude, but it just feels so out of the blue, I think, for me. So that's just, I think, just a pet peeve that I personally have with books, just generally. I just don't like when the dick becomes a character. But I am excited to see what happens. The plot is really thickening. Like, I feel like it's coming to a head. I feel like I've been reading this book forever, but I am on the last 100 pages, so I'm gonna finish this evening. I will say that I felt like there was a bit of a lull in the middle of the book-ish. I don't know, it never got boring. It just never, like, I think it's just a touch too long, but I will say there's always something happening, so I don't know if that necessarily was it. It's just like there's constantly new settings, and this one specific new setting, which kind of takes place like halfway through the book, there was just like a lot of setup for that kind of plot. I have to be vague, obviously, to avoid spoilers, but I feel like that was where I kind of lulled. But now our two main characters are kind of on this big, it's like the big ending of like everything that they've been doing throughout this entire book. They're gonna achieve this goal, and I don't know if it's actually gonna happen because they've just had like a major setback. So that's really interesting. We did have the romance come to fruition, which was a little cringe. You guys probably saw I was just cringing a little bit, but that's just probably a me thing. To be fair, there was one really short smut scene and then one like 6-pager. Just like a few of the lines that this man says, I find really cringe. And that's just a me thing, but it's not enough to ruin this book, which is nice. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens like with this quest. I feel like things are going to be dramatic, and I do know this is a series, so I feel like there's going to be a bit of a cliffhanger. There's also a lot of questions about like Lorien, the main character. I have a lot of questions about him and a lot of questions about her history, and like I'm not sure if I'm going to get all of the answers in this book because it's a series, but I really want them. Like, I really do want to know. So anyways, I'm currently reading it on my Kindle. Huh? What? That's weird.
sorry, I'm fucking gooped right now. If you've read this book, I just read page 541. Hello. What? What is happening? What? This is so crazy. What? That was crazy.
That was insane. I don't think I've ever been so just gobsmacked by the ending of a book. And whoa, I don't even really know what to say, but the last 50 pages of this book, I was reading faster than I think I've ever read, because you're just like, what the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? Like, that was crazy. Do you know what? When I was reading most of this book, I was like, oh, this is probably like a 3.5. Like, I'm enjoying it. I definitely recommend it to my romantic girlies, but is it really like my favorite? This is a 4-star purely based on that last like 50 pages. This was actually good. I think the one thing I'll say is I didn't love like I liked some of the romance elements. Like, I do like that enemies vibe, there's tension, like all of that. I just don't always love when the romance manifests, because I think it can be a little cringe, especially with the brooding like male characters. I just find them a bit icky. Like, I just feel like the whole you're a vicious little thing, just that is not my vibe. So that's a me thing, but I really liked this book. I still do have a lot of questions, and I was thinking again when I was in the middle of this book, I was like, there's no way I'm continuing this series. I will be continuing this series purely because I need to know like, that was just insane. That ending was insane. The other thing I'll say is that there are a lot of elements of this book that are similar to Throne of Glass. There are enough elements that it's different. This main character was quite similar to Selena, just like a real bad bitch, like wants to like rescue people, that kind of thing. But it wasn't too similar. I think it was reminiscent, but not like stealing, if that makes sense. But yeah, I liked this actually a lot more than I thought that I would. That I can't believe that ending was nuts. Maybe just because I was a bit kind of bored. It really shocked me. Like, I'd be curious to go and watch somebody else read this book, because I don't know if everybody felt that way. But that was wild. 4 stars. I do recommend this for sure, especially if you're like, you haven't read too much fantasy or romantasy yet. Even if you've been wanting to read Sarah J Maas, like ACOTAR or Throne of Glass, but you're just overwhelmed because it's obviously a whole thing to get into that. I feel like this is a good one to go to, because it's got the romance, but it's got this cool magic system, and like you're consistently moving throughout the book, so you don't really get bored, minus for me that kind of lull in the middle. But also I will say, I was reading my friend's manuscript for her book that she wrote like in the middle of this, so I stopped reading this for like 2 days, so that is also on me. I can't wait to go on Goodreads right now. I need to know what everybody is thinking, because that was insane. But that's the end of Reading Roulette. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of fun little reading challenge. I really am happy that I was able to get through some books on my TBR that I maybe wasn't leaning towards. So let me know if you'd like to see another episode of this. I'm thinking of filming another one because I think this was really fun. As always, if you guys have read either of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any book recs, leave them down below. We all could use a good book rec or two. So let's all chat in the comments. But I love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week with a new video. Bye.